Welcome to the Central Pennsylvania Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast, keeping you up to date with what is happening in the York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania real estate markets.
Welcome to the Central Pennsylvania Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast. My name is Chad Eisenhart. Each week I go to the local real estate meetups in York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and rebroadcast the meetup in their entirety. Whether you're a new investor looking to get started or own 100 doors, meetups are a great place to connect with other like-minded individuals, including buying and selling your deals, and staying up to date with what's new in your local market. I'm a buy and hold investor focused on single-family, multifamily, and self-storage in York, PA, and can be found at chadbuys.com. This week, I'm at Wealth Builders of Central PA, hosted by Anthony Lynam of CR Property Group and Integrity Home Buyers. This evening's speaker is Chuck Sierk, who is the host of the Real Estate Investing Mastermind Group of Lancaster. Chuck is an agent with EXP Realty and an investor since 2002, primarily focused on buy and sell investing. Chuck discusses his ups and downs in real estate investing, the one thing that will make or break you in real estate, the 12 common mistakes investing, including education but no action, failure to learn the basics, FOMO, fear of missing out, falling in love with the property, not looking at enough deals, thinking you cannot do it or you need a lot of money, failure to plan, trying to buy from unmotivated sellers, thinking real estate is get rich quick, why not all debt is bad debt. And now on to this week's episode. Thank you.
Got that. Cool.
All right, guys, we're going to get going here. So welcome back, everybody. A few new faces. So if you're new, would you mind introducing yourself? Is this your first time here?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Chris Anderson, and it's my first time getting into wholesaling and just trying to network and meet some people.
Okay. Have you done any investing before?
Never.
Okay.
So this is my first time.
So you're in for a treat today because our presenter, Chuck, is... give you the name, 12 common mistakes real estate investors make.
Yep.
So Chuck runs the Lancaster meetup, extremely successful meetup, has done an incredible job growing that meetup. Eric, the owner of CR Property Group, presented there 2 months ago.
October.
Mm-hmm. Just a phenomenal meetup. There was a ton of people there. Chuck does a really, really good job. So I reviewed these slides, and the information he has today is just great stuff for investors at any level. So welcome. Thanks for coming. And like I said, you guys are in for a treat today with Chuck presenting. He has a world of knowledge, does the Lancaster meetup, but also does his own flips. Your wife is a real estate agent as well, correct?
As am I.
So real estate's in the family.
Yeah.
But just an incredible guy and brings a lot of energy. Also just has a very in-depth knowledge of what you guys are trying to do as well. So my name's Anthony Lynam. I'm with CR Property Group. I'm the Director of Operations. Just to give you a short little brief background, CR Property Group puts on this investor meetup. Eric Brewer is the owner of CR Property Group. This was one of his missions to just give back. We're part of a large national mastermind, and we just felt it was, our duty to give back what we've learned because we feel as if it's been given to us. So without waiting any longer, I'll hand it over to Chuck here and let him do his presentation.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
So I'm not just going to stand up here and be an instructor, and I'd like to have kind of some interaction. I'll ask some questions. We can share stories. Not all of them need to be really bloody and horror stories of, this is the stuff that's happened to us, but we're really looking at, what are some of those mistakes, some of those badges I've got on my merit badge sash, and how to avoid them, especially if you're new. If you've been doing this for a while, it can definitely open up discussion about, the right things to do. So just a little bit about me. Together with my wife, we are real estate agents with EXP. We actually just opened the first branch for EXP Realty in Lancaster County. So we're right downtown at the Candy Factory. So EXP is a different kind of brokerage. I'm not pitching it to you, but just to explain, it's a little different type of brokerage. And we opened a branch, but we opened a branch in a co-working space. So it's not like you're going to walk in and, hey, this is the EXP office. It's no, we have an office for closed door conversations, but the rest is out there with other businesses and working in the business community. And that's something that we're really passionate about, is being able to give back to the business community. We host 2 different business networking groups. One is Rockstar Connect Lancaster and one is Rockstar Connect Lidditz. So it's really a place for, it's just mix and mingle in the evening. There's no plans, there's no program, no boring speakers. It's for business owners to come together because we value relationships, and relationships is what can really make this business work in the best way possible. You need relationships if you're going to make it across these 12 common mistakes. So I've been investing since 2002, way back in Chambersburg when I was working for Mack Trucks. My wife, she got her license because we started flipping houses. We said, okay, well, rather than work at Zales, sweetie, why don't you sell something that's a little more valuable? Sell some real estate. So she hopped in, and she's been selling all of our properties since. So we're passionate about helping others, achieve their dream through real estate investing and real estate as a whole, because we do help people that are looking to get what they want as real estate agents. I'm primarily a buy and sell investor. Usually there's a whole lot of fix that goes on in between, or wholesaling properties, but it's come to my realization after doing this for years and years, it's like, well, now wait a second, if I can buy them at the right price and I can buy them in areas where the cash flow is going to work, so definitely our buy, fix, and hold strategy is what we're implementing now. I have a residential redevelopment company, Sierk Homes, and that's about it. So the one thing that will make you or break you in this business is you. And we start off our meetup in Lancaster with the same slide. It all comes down to really what you're willing to do and what you choose to do and what you choose not to do. I mean, it's absolutely that simple. So think of that as we go through this, a lot of these choices and whether you're going to make these mistakes comes down to you, and it's a common thread. So when we look at the 12 common mistakes, what are they? So you get education, but without any action, right? You know it all, but don't do anything with it, you get nothing. 2, failure to learn the basics. So we'll talk more about that. 3, fear of making huge financial mistakes. Not looking at other properties. Or there's a better deal around the corner syndrome. Next would be thinking that real estate investing is complicated and only for the wealthy. 7 would be falling in love with a property. And we'll talk about a couple different case stories and see, this is where we're going to have the opportunity to have some conversation. Is everybody okay with speaking up? Cool. Failure to plan out your financial goals and trying to buy properties from non-motivated sellers. A little spoiler alert, it's a waste of time. 10, believing real estate investing is, I'm going to get rich quick. And not analyzing a potential financial investment. But here's an interesting one, is thinking that, well, I need to pay off the mortgage as soon as possible because it's only a necessary evil to get to my cash flow goals. So we'll talk about that before we wrap things up. Sound good? Cool. So, education without action. Who here has spent thousands of dollars on either courses or education or real estate information? Me? How many times did you buy something and not really use it. You know, then you put all that information on the bookshelf and it sits there. Does that happen to anybody? Anybody willing to admit? I'll admit it. Been there, done that. Shelf help. Yeah, shelf help, right. So why? I mean, what would be holding you back? You made that financial commitment to get that education, but you don't, you know, you read through it, maybe you listen to it, but you don't do anything with it. What happens there?
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis, right? You overthink it. We'll touch on that. Another reason what would hold you back? Chat.
The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, and then you keep striving to learn more.
That never-ending quest, that black hole of knowledge, right? Yeah, can be. I mean, the other one is, I mean, hell, just life gets in the way. You just got so much going on. Because if you're not, you know, a full-time real estate investor that's, you know, crushing it and, you know, taking pictures on top of their Audi R8 convertible, then, you know, I mean, you still have the opportunity to be working a full-time job and looking to build a business on the side, right? Is anybody here working full-time? Yeah. Okay, so that's like double duty. I mean, you don't have those normal 40 hours a week to just dedicate to real estate investing. So yeah, life can get in the way as well. But here's the key. The key, and this goes to any industry, this goes to any continuous improvement, is to learn by doing. Right? You get to first step. Don't go to step 2 in that information until you've done and experienced step 1, right? So do it as you're learning is really the key point there. So you do one thing, one step, because you're not going to jump from the base of the mountain up to the top of the mountain. We'll get to that. I think that's number 9 or 10. You're not going to jump, right? It's one step. That's how you climb a mountain, is one step at a time. So you do one thing, one step, but do it. For God's sakes, do it. So kit of parts, right? That information, that course it's like a kit of parts that and has the instructions on how to assemble it all together. So you can have a nice shiny sports car, right? I mean, who wouldn't love to have a Lamborghini? I don't even know how to say it. A Huracan to me, I think they spelled hurricane wrong, but that's okay. So you've built this shiny sports car by learning everything, and you start assembling everything together. But where's that car parked? It's at the gas pump, right? There you go. See, Nate gets the $1,000 gift card. I'm kidding. You need gas for it to be any good. Otherwise, you got a nice, big, shiny, high-performance paperweight. You got to put some gas into it. And that action that you take into your business is the gas into the tank. And every single course and all that information that you had, it works if you work. So put some fuel in your tank, light it up, and get going. So failure to learn the real estate investing basics is the second one. Anybody seen Dumb and Dumber? See, those type of movies, I can only take so much of. I think my tolerance for stupid comedy turned off at Tommy Boy. So that kind of shows some of my age. But all this Will Ferrell stuff and, I mean, Jackass? Are you young enough to really have been in the Jackass generation? Oh my goodness. That stuff's just ridiculous. Anyway, so in other words, you know, you might be taking the fail forward fast philosophy to the extreme. Okay, they said call people. And just, you know, you call everybody. Okay, what do I say? I want to buy your house. Okay, there's something to be said for that, but when you get to yes, don't get yourself into trouble by going without the knowledge. The other one I like is the build my parachute on the way down. Right? Sometimes that can really turn into a human mess splattered all over the sidewalk. Right? Oh, well, hey, they said, well, I'm just going to quit my job. I'm going all the way in. I'm going to be full-time real estate investing. I don't have a pipeline of leads. coming in. I don't know where I'm going to get my next deal, but damn it, I'm good, right? I'm going to make this happen. I'll build my parachute on the way down. Get educated and learn by doing. So the basics of real estate investing, I guess that's real small print for the back of the room, but I took my own stab at this and looked at it from a standpoint of, okay, what are the basics of real estate investing? I'm not talking about lease options versus wholesaling or assigning or double closing or all of those details. I'm talking about the basics you need. You need a bunch of relationships, right? And that comes down with your ability to speak and interact with other human beings, okay? If you need some improvement there, start there first, because that makes it so much easier to be able to build relationships. First off, every time you talk to a motivated seller, whether they've reached out to you through a referral or you've sent them a letter, you've sent them a text, an RVM, whatever means of them being in touch with you, it's a relationship. It's as simple as that. I mean, there's nothing, motivated sellers they're normal, everyday people. So talk to them as if they're normal, everyday people and they're your long-lost friend, right? So building relationships with sellers, and then the same with your sphere of influence. I mean, I'm real big on networking. I mean, 3 Thursdays out of a month, I'm in a room full of 100 people, right? It's because I'm working to build relationships and connect people together. Doing that with your sphere of influence can definitely build your relationships and introduce you to people like industry professionals, agents, contractors, title people. I mean, the list goes on and on. Even the people that are in the codes office. If you really get into managing your rehabs, there's a lot of relationships in real estate. Investors and lenders. Unless you hit the Powerball or Mega Millions or really have a deep reserve of capital, you're going to want to leverage investors, lenders, whether they're commercial banks or they're private lenders or they're hard money lenders, right? You're going to need to be able to build different relationships with each of these types of people. And then your friends and family. And I mean, we're just coming out of Thanksgiving. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving? I had a good Thanksgiving. It was a long trip down I-95. I'm not talking about those type of everybody gets together and has a whole bunch of fun and, no, because sometimes your friends and your family are going to talk you out of it. They're going to try and talk you out of it. So, you're going to invest in real estate? That's risky. That's a lot of money. Oh my goodness, you're going to fail. I've read on, my Google box that somebody lost a shit ton of money in real estate investing. Yeah, of course. And they're going to try and talk you out of it. So managing basics of those are all the relationships that you'll start to run into, and I'm sure there's many more. The financial basics, right? You have to be able to calculate your project costs, right? How much is it going to cost for me to fix this property for whatever my purpose is, whether you're going to rehab it to retail or you're going to rehab it for rental. You need to be able to calculate what's your return on investment. We'll get into the goals in a little bit, but you want that return on investment and run with the calculations, not with the emotions. Cap rate, especially if you're dealing with income producing properties, cash flow, taxes, and then your general business budgeting. That's a real big one because in there lies your marketing budgets, your expenses, what are the tools you're going to have to operate your business. If you're just looking to add a couple properties throughout the year, maybe you're not looking to build a bigger business for this to be repeated. But still, you have those expenses that you need to budget for. Then the mechanics. I mean, this is where the actual how-to really comes into play. I mean, it starts with marketing. If you're not talking to people about real estate, you're not going to be purchasing any investment real estate. So in some way, you need to attract people to talk to you. That's the fundamentals of it. So how do you do that? taking different approaches. Those are the mechanics that you're going to want to learn. You don't have to learn them all, right? Go back to one of the previous ones. You don't have to learn all the marketing techniques and implement. You're not going to do what they're doing at Integrity first if you're just starting out. And you know what? That's okay. Because your first marketing campaign could be take out your Google box, hit that contacts app, and just start calling everybody. That can be your first means of marketing, and that takes nothing but time, and we'll talk about that in a bit too. That's the last time, and that's not going to be the last time, but I'll try not to say, and we'll talk about that too many more times. So create acquisitions and sales. How do you actually close on it? Your contracts, the basics to make sure that you're going to stay out of hot water and not get yourself sued. Creative strategies. That's where you actually get to you're going to have relationships with title. And you need to know how deals are structured, especially if you're doing this direct to the seller and not leveraging the knowledge and experience of a real estate professional. How to rehab. Okay, there's a sequence of operations in order to fix anything up. Definitely don't want to learn how to rehab by doing a full rehab. My third rehab was a year-long hell, gutting 2,800 square feet with my bare hands and one other dude. And I don't recommend it. And I had only picked up a drywall knife 13 months before that. And it was just a year of hell. How to manage rentals. I mean, you're dealing with people. Sometimes people can be messy. Physically and emotionally and personality-wise, how to manage rentals. You don't want to jump in without having the basics and the understanding of here are my step-by-step rules. And then how to manage a team. Even if you're just looking to do this from a lower level and not looking to build a full-scale operation, all of those connections and those relationships, I would recommend teaming them up. And it works better if the relationship between your mortgage person and your title company is a good one. If they don't like each other, my goodness, it makes life so much more difficult. So having the relationships in between all of your relationships and creating that network is really a huge key to success. Okay, we'll be here all night if I go at this pace.
Chuck,
yeah.
Question. Can you go back to that slide?
Yeah.
So, say I'm Isaiah here and I'm just getting started.
Right.
In your experience, like, there's a lot of stuff up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about analysis paralysis, or getting all of the education and then not putting anything into action. So there's a line you cross somewhere where you say, okay, I have enough information, I have enough education, now I'm going to put it into action. So what you have up there, can you recommend a book or somewhere to learn a chunk of that gets them to the action?
All right, so we said one thing, one step.
Right.
So Chris, right? All right, you're the lucky winner tonight because you're the only one that said, okay, it's my first time here, I'm just getting started. Okay, so I'm not personally attacking you, it's just you're my example. So Chris is starting out. He's already identified, listen, I want to wholesale properties. I'm guessing that your goal is to generate cash, right? Initially in chunks to stabilize everything so that way you feel comfortable taking a step forward to actually buying, fixing, and holding, right? You want to establish a financial foundation for you to build off of. Right? And let me guess, the goal is to change the financial future of your family. Okay, so looking at that from a standpoint of wholesaling, the first, what's the book?
Or
I don't know if the resource is my experience is what I'm going to talk first, right? So your first step is you've got to figure out who to talk to, right? So first off, I'd be talking, I'd be working with my sphere of influence. Because all those people that are in your contacts app of your Google box, they know how many people. And this is why it's really called networking. If you're that center bubble, right, you have probably 250 bubbles that you're connected to. Well, imagine that each of those bubbles are connected to 250 as well. So you want to initiate that conversation. After much thought and consideration, in order for me to improve and secure the financial future for me and my family, I've decided to invest in real estate. And this is something that I'm pursuing as building a business so I can ultimately transition over full time. So these are the types of properties that I'm looking for as a real estate investor. Maybe somebody's inherited a property that they just don't know what to do with because there's a bunch of work, a bunch of deferred maintenance, and really don't have the time and energy. That would be one case. The other case would be somebody that really is moving on with their life and they want a quick transaction. Have them give me a call. This is the conversation I'm having with that sphere of influence. That's my first step. But marketing and getting that phone to ring with people to contact you because they know that you are investing in real estate is priority number one. If you're not talking to anybody, nothing else matters. I don't know if there's to me it's a book that I really lean on is The One Thing. Right? The One Thing by Gary Keller is focus on that one thing. Because if you're trying to do steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 and learn them all at the same time and do them all at the same time, it doesn't work. You have to get the first one done. When one says, okay, then you go to step 2. Now you can understand what step 2 is and be prepared, but don't go to step 7, 8, and 9. It doesn't matter. You don't need to have meetings with your CPA and that type of thing in detail to figure out exactly where you're going to spend the profit check until you're actually generating income from it. So
I actually love your answer to go to the sphere of influence, because if you look at everything that's on the screen there, you take out 2/3 of that just by going to your sphere. Like, you don't need a business budget, you don't need a marketing budget, you don't need to know acquisitions and sales until you get the lead from your sphere to go out there. Mm-hmm. So if we're focused on the one thing, that's a genius place to start.
Yeah, and what better way to reconnect with people? You know how lucky I am? There's people I haven't been able to connect with from high school for a long time. I went to high school in New Holland. I live in Lancaster. It's our 25th reunion coming up next year. You know what? I'm not really thrilled about it, but I kind of am, because it gives me the opportunity to network with my sphere of influence. Guess who's signing up and creating a Facebook group in order to organize the reunion? This guy right here. Because now I get the opportunity. There's 225 people minus the ones that have passed on, right? I mean, there's at least 100 people. I have the opportunity to now have a face-to-face conversation, look them right in the whites of their eyes so they can really, because when you talk to somebody over the phone, you have to be 10 times animated than you normally are, else you sound like the phone book. Just funk. You've got to pump yourself up. And you think it sounds like I'm talking like a jerk. But to the people on the other end of the phone, it sounds normal because they can't see you. When you're in front of a seller and you're doing that walkthrough and that face-to-face, you don't need to 10x your, don't start dancing around like Tinkerbell, because that's not good. They can see you, right? So, I don't know. Anyway, that's just an example of how networking with my sphere of influence is. I'm thrilled because I haven't had as much penetration of my marketing into Eastern Lancaster County. Well, that's where most of the people, they grew up in New Holland, they stayed in the New Holland area, and they still go to the same churches. Okay, cool. Let me get back, because I had been to South Carolina, Chambersburg, and I don't live there anymore. Now I have a perfect opportunity to add that close network with my sphere. I went down a rabbit hole.
No, that was great. Thank you.
But those type of opportunities is really, it starts with you. I mean, again, that finger, on the very first slide is, you want more deals? Talk on your phone more. Pick up the phone. When they say that this is $1 million cash machine, and a lot of people bitch about it being $1,000, I can work from here. I do work from here because of what that $1,000 can do, and it's a $1 million machine because I store all my contacts in there, and it keeps me in touch and makes money happen. Okay, where'd I put the clicker? There we go. Fear of making a huge financial mistake. Everyone fears mistakes. Absolutely. So you're not alone. It's as simple as learn the basics, do the work. Remember, we put gas into that sports car, so ask for guidance when you don't know. Go back to building those relationships. And if you don't have that relationship yet, who do you go to? You go to your sphere of influence. Everybody does it. Ask Facebook. Hell, Facebook was smart enough to put the recommendations thing on there. You can even go a step further, and you can be part of a group in Central PA of over, are we over 2,000? I don't know if we're over 2,000, but we're definitely over 1,000 real estate investors in Central PA in a Facebook group that literally, I need this done. Who do you know that can do this tomorrow? You have 4 or 5 responses within a couple hours. I can't find any good contractors. Okay? There's a community of real estate investors that you can tap into in Central PA from, even far up north. There's some people that do a lot of business in Maryland, all the way down to Philly, to out in, beyond Carlisle. We have people, it's grown considerably. So the guidance, you can get it from the community, but again, be very careful about who you listen to. 3 feet from gold, I was gonna say, the guys, you've probably heard the story, the guys that stopped digging for the gold mine to really strike it rich back in the 1800s out west, and they stopped. They said, you know what? They sold the equipment that they purchased for pennies on the dollar. The guy who bought it hired an engineer to say, hey, go check this land out for me. Said, oh, yeah, they were close. All they had to do was go 3 feet to the right. So the guy they sold it to made all the money, right? Don't be that 3 feet from gold because you just gave up and you were scared of making a huge financial mistake. Get guidance so that way you know what's the next step. It's always one thing, one step. Just worry about where do I put my foot the next step. Not looking at more properties. So don't fall in love with the property you look at. Part of sound real estate investing is in giving yourself a choice. Okay? Don't be a motivated buyer. Been there, done that, got the scars to prove it. Oh yeah, but we can really make this work. Oh no, we need this, sweetheart. We got bills to pay. We got to get this done. 4 months out, you got to sell it fast. Well, you got to get it fixed. Okay? Oh well, yeah, we can possibly get more for it. No. Don't get stuck on the one. So stay away from justifying those numbers. Well, if we do this, or maybe if we put granite instead of laminate, I know it's better than all the comps, but then we can ask more for it. Don't justify the numbers to make them work. You will lose money. A better deal may be around the corner syndrome. So this is the opposite, right? You never start doing anything because, there's going to be something better. And they wait and they wait. No, you learn by doing. But you've got to be doing something that fits your financial goals, fits the return on investment, says, yeah, right? Draw the box. If it's in the box, go. If it's outside the box, don't go. If it's in the box, don't say, well, it's not in the middle of the box. It's not a bullseye. You know what? Not every flip makes 50K in profit, and that's okay. Absolutely. Don't compare yourself to everybody else that's out there posting on Facebook and showing things, but don't be so motivated to be like, oh, well, I'm going to make $5,000. We hit all these numbers, and I'm going to make $5,000. That's not enough of a cushion for you to be able to move. You can spend $5,000 in a heartbeat when you're fixing something up, especially if you're new. Thinking that REI is a complicated game. There are complicated subjects in real estate investing, no doubt. It gets a whole lot simpler with the right team. You don't have to know everything and be the expert on every component of it. You need to know who to call. That's how Henry Ford did it, right? And it's not only something that the wealthy can play. So learn how to do it first. Learn by doing the basics. I mean, there's a 9-step process to analyze the financial feasibility on each buy and hold or buy and sell. So again, it's real small, but basically for an income property, you figure out if it's fully rented and at the current rents, what's that total income? That's your gross income. Then you take out your allowances for vacancies. How does it actually perform? All right, that's fictitious money. You can't just run everything at 100%, so you got to allow for vacancies. That gives you your operating income before expenses and your mortgage payments. So then you take out those expenses, right? Your taxes, your insurance, utilities, repairs, and maintenance, etc. You take out those reserves. That gives you your operating income before your money service, mortgage payments. Take the mortgage payments out, that gives you your cash flow. Then you can add back in your mortgage principal payment because it's the same as equity. So that gives you your total return if you want to look at it in absolutes. Okay? Now if you're buying and selling, this one's real simple. I mean, you just start hacking and you hack it off and you end up with what's left over. So what do you hack off? I mean, you can really get yourself in trouble if you say it's an ARV times 70% minus the repairs and I'm going in. I'm going to make it, the calculation says I'm going to make $22,000. Well, add up the real numbers of what's your sales price? That doesn't change, but your cost to resell the property. Again, this goes back to your teams. Okay, do you have a good agent that's going to get you that top dollar? Do you have somebody that has the ability to get you what you want? So there's expenses to that. To hire somebody to get you that top dollar, you're paying them a commission. You're hiring them. Then you've got your closing costs, your transfer tax, you've got repairs. Have you ever sold a house that a buyer didn't ask for any repairs, even if it was $50? Nah, it's tough to come up with one, isn't it? Right? So you've got, no matter how good a shape it's in, people they will go through their final walkthrough and they'll say, I'm not closing until this is done. And it wasn't on the inspection. What are you talking about? And you've got to, there are people that are like that. You never know what they're going to ask for. So there's costs to resell that. Then the cost of ownership. From the time you close on it, guess what? The county's already saying, okay, now you're the cash cow. You're going to start paying us taxes. So you've got taxes and all of your utilities, etc. Your cost of money goes into the holding cost. So that's what it costs you to own it for the period you do. And then you've got the cost of the renovations. It's your materials, it's your labor, it's your, I say services because, even your materials are going to get delivered unless you want to be that Home Depot gopher, right? That sucks. Been there, done that. And then you've got the cost to buy. Now that's not the actual purchase price, that is the closing costs that you're paying for when you purchase property. And I don't care whether you put the points on your loan up in your holding cost or if you put it down here in the cost to buy because you paid the points up front, it doesn't matter. It's got to come off. And then you less the purchase price and what's left over on the table after you've divvied all of those chunks up, that's what you get to take to the IRS man. Because then you've got to pay, you've got expenses, you've got taxes on that, you also had marketing expenses. Your true profit doesn't really ring till you've paid for everything to be done. Okay, so that's your true profit, that's your deposit to HIP National Bank. And that's the number that we all dream about. But you don't want to fall in love with a property. You can fall in love with a rental, you can fall in love with a flip. I guess all my animations didn't stick. Okay, so once you've got your feet wet and you become a real estate investor, you'll wonder why you waited so long to begin. Let's go back to those fears. Don't wait. Pick up Google Box. Got a lunch break? Go out on your lunch break. Sit in your car. So now you'll be very tempted to fall in love with a property. You've seen how well it's doing. Your cash flow has been going up each year, and they've fallen in love with their tenants. Not literally. Oh, I've got great tenants. I'd do anything for my tenants. Oh, they're just such wonderful people. Or you'd be like, I've watched HGTV for too long to not post some of those Instagram photos. Look at me. Look what I can do. So you start rehabbing to your own taste. Oh yeah, Joanna? Take a look at this. Right? And hashtag, all that. Anyway. So 2 big mistakes are made here. First, never fool yourself into thinking your property will sell for more because you over-improved it. The comps will tell you what your property is worth. And if you're trying to stretch it, yes, there are people that can stretch it, but you're not going to stretch it that huge overrun that you just hit with your GC because you didn't do change orders as you stepped through the process. Oh, I think this will look better. Oh, I found this other tile. Well, that tile takes 46 extra cuts an hour. You're telling me you want it for the same price as I quoted you for the other tile? No, I don't think so. But if you don't use change orders, you don't know that up front before you say, we'll sell it for more. No, it doesn't work that way. And then second is getting so friendly with your tenants that you fail to maintain your retail standards based on what the market will bear. You get they're coming at you with the emotions. They want all the feels. I'm going to get my landlord hooked. They're going to like me. They're going to give me breaks. They're going to give me cuts. Oh, yeah, well, we've got Christmas presents. I really want to get Johnny the new Xbox One S, whatever. We'll pay rent 2 weeks into January. Oh, you're such nice people. Oh, that'll be great. Now don't fall into that trap. Failure to effectively plan your financial goals. So before you purchase that first property, which of course you have financially analyzed, the numbers work, the calculations work. Real estate is math. It's not emotion. Determine what you expect from your investments, your financial goals. If you expect $50,000 of flip, you will be living in look around the corner syndrome. But you need to make sure that it's in the box. It's known as the time versus money concept. Who here knows the time versus money concept? You will know. The more you have of one, the less you need of the other in order to reach your financial goals. Let's repeat that and let that sink in. The more you have of one, time or money, the less you need of the other, time or money, in order to reach your financial goals. So if you don't have a whole lot of money, you're just getting started out, guess what you're going to spend? A lot of time. I couldn't believe it. It took me a year to find my first deal. Well, how many hours did you put into the hard work that's required in order to get deals during your first year? Well, I worked 75 hours a week. I could only manage maybe 4 or 5 hours a week. Okay, well, it's time versus money. If you have a little of both, then the time to the first deal is much more extended. Number 9, trying to purchase properties that the seller isn't motivated to sell. How many people have talked to someone that said, yeah, I'll sell it for the price. What's the price? What's the price? Yeah, I'll sell it. Give me the right price. Anybody talk to somebody that told them that? Chad, you have? You have? Anybody else? Yeah? Okay. Buying off-market properties is a wise strategy that can generate a lot. But if you're wasting your time beating your head against the wall for somebody and you don't have the skills to identify, right, reading how somebody's reacting to whether it's a cold call, oh my God, I hate cold calls. Hey, this is Chuck. I'm your neighborhood home buyer. I was just, my partner was going through the neighborhood and yeah, we were thinking that, he said that your house might be for sale. I'm just wondering, we're actually looking for properties in that neighborhood. Did you have a property that you were looking to sell? Click, screamed at, et cetera, et cetera. But it works, right? It does work.
It works.
It can be brain damaging, but it works. But those one that said, I'll sell it for $1 million, are those ones you set appointments on?
No, we'll just refer those to real estate agents.
Just refer them out to your team because you've spent time in the basics of building your relationships. So unfortunately, those for the right price people, you're not going to make any money. And don't be so excited that you've got a seller on the phone. Oh, yeah, they said they would sell. I'm going on my appointment. Yeah, you can go on an appointment if you need to practice. That's fine. But don't waste a bunch of time trying to make sure that it is or isn't a deal. You want to get to that point where you are qualifying people that you're speaking to about real estate very, very quickly, right? And build your team. But so when you refer it out to an agent, if the agent then has a discussion with them and they're actually maybe in the range that might be attractive for you, does it get bounced back?
Should.
Right? So that training of the team and that building of the team has those, well, hey, they're not ready to talk to me yet. Not from a wholesale discussion. They don't have a pain that I'm aware of. And if they do, it's very deep, but I've got to keep moving on because I've got all these other patients I got to go attend to because they're hurting a whole lot worse. Okay? So then your agent's talking to them and they start working with them and it's like, okay, and it doesn't, maybe they list it on the market and it's listed for 3 months because the seller's unrealistic. And then they get beaten down and it missed their mark. Everybody has a mark of the ideal time or the drop dead time that they need to sell a house. If it doesn't happen before then, panic can set in. I need to be here, or I need to do this, and this was supposed to happen from the proceeds from this. And it can change. So that agent definitely bumping it back and foregoing the commission on a lower price property, but taking that commission on listing the finished product, yeah, okay, make it worth their while, but have them play your game. So believing you can get rich overnight. Does everybody here think, I can go invest in real estate and tomorrow I'm going to be a millionaire? No, nobody thinks that, right? But I think there are some unrealistic expectations that lend itself to the rich overnight syndrome. I mean, it's taken me 15 years to be an overnight success. You've seen those memes, all throughout social media. I mean, it's true. It takes time, as with real estate investing. Again, it takes, the time versus money. The more you have of one, the less you need the other. So the more money you have, it takes money to make money fast. That's a very important qualifier. It doesn't take a ton of money to make money in real estate, but it will take time. Now, that time can happen quickly if you get in front of the right person at the right time. So this is why I think maybe some people think real estate can be complicated. No, it's just there's a lot of dynamics. But the important thing to remember is that any one of you, can do it. You can join many investors who generate income. You just got to be patient and do the work. Number 11, not financially analyzing a potential investment property. I mean, who would do that? I mean, that just sounds like, maybe I should put the Dumb and Dumber picture on that one, right? How long does it take to analyze a property? Chad? 5 minutes? Does it take anyone else longer than 5 minutes? How long does it take you? 20 minutes, half an hour? Does it take anybody longer than half an hour? It's okay if it does. I mean, believe me, because I bet you him analyzing it he's not analyzing it the same way Chad is. But if you walk through it and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm good to go. And you take that all the way to the closing table, there better be at some point in time, whether you get the signature before you do the analysis, that's okay. Just know that it's on you to be open and transparent with the seller. Say, you know what? I'm pretty sure I can do this. Let's go ahead and put this in the contract so we can go ahead and get things started, because I know you want to be headed to Florida by the 15th of this month. So I've got a lot of work I've got to do in a very short period of time. So let's go ahead and sign this now. If we need to make adjustments, we'll go ahead and sign an addendum. Does that sound fair? Yeah, because you've been open and honest with me. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Or maybe they say, well, no, it's absolutely got to be 80K. So if you don't put 80K on it, I'm not signing. Okay, well, let's put 80K on it. Just know that I still need to run my numbers. I think we're pretty close, so I'm confident. Let's go ahead and sign it up today. Then you have that uncomfortable conversation later and say, it's outside my box. It doesn't fit. If you're not going to take care of your own financial situation in an effort to try and help someone else, they call that charity. And it's not serving you and your family any good by doing that. So definitely not doing a good enough analysis or analyzing in the details is one of the most serious mistakes, because that's where you can lose money. Don't let it freeze you. Build the process, check with other people, and go. But at least take the time to run the calculations. That's a lot of text. Yeah, I've seen people get buy happy, where they're like, oh, it'll work out, yeah, no. You can't be doing too much else out here to ignore those bigger decisions. Now, if you're worried about $200-300 difference, I can absolutely see at volume where it's like $200 to $300, you're just going to roll right through that. Now we're talking big swings. So it's in the numbers. It's not in your gut. Don't go by your information. Make sure you've carefully collected the right data. You're looking at the right numbers and plugging them into the calculation. And you're allowing for contingencies. Don't try and cut all your contingencies and say, oh, yep, it's just in the box. I really want to do a deal. The year's almost over. I didn't do as many deals as I wanted to, so let's make this one work. No, it's got to have all of your contingencies in there as well before you buy. Once you sign on that deed and it's closed, there's no take-backs. And then thinking it's important to pay off your mortgage as soon as possible because mortgages are a necessary evil. How many people would rather have, or is your goal to have properties free and clear or to have them leveraged? Leveraged? Nate? Okay. Either. Just give me some. Just give me some. I want some houses. How about you? Yeah. Leveraged. Okay. Because there are some people that are like, I don't want any debt. I mean, they drank the Kool-Aid that Dave Ramsey was serving at church. I mean, just no debt. Nah. I see where you're coming from, but I disagree. First of all, mortgages are an important part of financial success. We have to leverage other people's money, whether it's a bank or it's Uncle Jim Bob, it doesn't matter. Leveraging will get you where you want to go faster. That's called gas in the tank. So you got to learn why it's true. You learn how, in the right situation, a second or third mortgage can be a nice thing. See, this is how we grow, right? But you're not going to worry so much about of how to mortgage everything up to really grow from the time before you've ever done your first investment. Don't worry about those yet, right? We grow there. And secondly, mortgages are one of the keys to generating wealth in real estate. So how many people have made any one of these mistakes? Should I put the full list up? Yes. Put the full list up? All right, I can put the full list. Which one to you is the worst? You should have put the don't everyone talk at once rule up there.
Falling in love with a property.
Falling in love with a property. You think that's the worst? Why?
It was for me. So in my early 20s, I bought a 4-unit in downtown Harrisburg. I thought it was awesome because it was in Restaurant Row at the time. Mm-hmm. So we're talking early 2000s. Thought it was going to be its redevelopment area, right? Which it did eventually turn into that. Didn't run the numbers, just thought that, hey, I could buy this cheap, fix it up. So I did, dumped about $100,000 into it. And then the city went bankrupt or was on the verge of bankruptcy, raised all the taxes, raised all the water, sewer bills, everything went through the roof. 2008 hit. Tenants pretty much had their pick of rental properties. Landlords were dropping rents everywhere. So I went from having the most desirable property to one I couldn't fill while expenses were going up. I was still in love with the property.
Yeah, it's Restaurant Row, right?
Ride it out. So I probably made 6 of those 12 mistakes on that one property.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I was young and dumb, so I didn't know any different.
Yeah, I was too.
And
I
it
started
pretty
when I
much
was
threw me out, so.
started when I was what, 02, was 25. So yeah, I was like, all right, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I plowed right through the cash flow quadrant, and man, I hit the next, I don't even know. I hit them so hard, I don't even remember the names of the next two. I ran them over, and I'm like, okay, real estate's where it's at. The very first, remember Google back in 2002? How many people, I mean, it was like cheap, crappy looking websites, and you see these buy buttons and all these colors, and you're like, ooh, this must be good. They got a nice pretty ad. Spent some money on some education that I just had no business of, digging into until I really knew what I was getting into, Because even back then there were forums. It wasn't like a Facebook group where you can just see everybody's comments. It was a post, like an article, and then you had another post, and you see it had to be all these. You didn't have notifications on your Google box because there was no Google box. It was a Nokia brick back then. There wasn't text. Who would hit number 5 3 times to get to L? I mean, come on. So I mean, where we are right now in time, we have so much access to information and experience from other people compared to when I started. It's not complicated anymore. Not at all. I remember fax machines. Oh my goodness, Long and Foster, you have to send everything via fax. And it's like, who the hell's got a fax? Even back in 2005. I don't have a fax at home. We'll go to the office. Well, thank God we don't need fax machines anymore. Now you can work from anywhere. But it simplifies the way we can do transactions. It simplifies how we can connect with other people. I mean, walk around with a little box and be talking to somebody internationally, and see them while they're doing it. You have all of this technology. Don't get wrapped up into it when you start going into, your over-analysis paralysis. Oh, I got to have this. This program says if I put these numbers in, it's going to tell me exactly how to. No, you don't have to overcomplicate it. It still can be a spreadsheet. You can have your sphere of influence in a spreadsheet. Now, if you were managing things on the volume at Integrity First through a spreadsheet, I think you'd have a bunch of burn-up computers trying to process a lot of that. So there is power in technology, but don't get lost in it if you're looking to build a business. So which other one have maybe somebody stepped in that pothole? Go ahead.
I think number 12 is a big one. I think that, I don't know, like my parents, you don't want to be in debt, they would say, or, you have a house mortgage, you want to pay it off as fast as you can, but when you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it talks about, like, you want to get in as much good debt as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to pay everything down or pay everything off right away, it's going to be hard to buy anything again anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, based on, the key to holding properties really isn't the debt, as long as you've done the analysis, right? You know kind of which directions markets are going, and you understand a bit about the area, because now you're dependent on, right? There's a different look at it because you're looking more long term for a buy and hold, unless it's a 3 to 5 year buy hold. There was one of the comments I had in there before I didn't really want to step into, because one of the mistakes can be that you think it's time to sell because you've improved it, and the cash, and it's performing better. You've done your improvements, you've raised rents, you've brought, you've repositioned it. If that's your strategy to meet your financial goals, if that falls in the box, then sure, go ahead. But other times it can be very attractive to sell something before it's time.
Place for that reason.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even if you got to the closing table and you had $1,000 earnest money.
Proved out one of those points, though, to run the numbers and do your due diligence,
Yep.
that your process is working, checking everything out.
Yeah. Well, now you know you have more questions to ask, right? Your due diligence process may have just gotten a little bit longer. I mean, I'm sure when Chad says he's analyzing a deal in 5 minutes, doesn't mean that there isn't additional analysis that goes on to really, because you step forward, you're like, okay, you step forward on a repair estimate, right? If you wait for a contract, all your subs and all your contractors to come back with bids they're ready to stand behind before you even go under contract on a property, it's gone. I mean, that takes way too long. So understanding from that rough budgeting, that's why you have to do that analysis. How many contingencies do you put into play when you do that 5-minute analysis? No, okay, so that's from a time perspective. I'm saying like you put contingencies on, like if you're doing a flip, you need to have a repair contingency because it's gonna be in this range, but until I have professionals take a look at it, and truly understand the scope of work and they see something that I don't see, that type, I mean, you got that information before you went to closing. So you still have that as you start the ball moving forward to get to the closing table, and you want to have things, especially if you're flipping a house, you want to call your foreman from the closing table and say, okay, swing, right? So that way they start demo right away once you have ownership, so that way, because every single day is money. And you can maybe start 2 days late. I wouldn't start, though, until you have everybody lined up, because every day it sits without anything being converted, you are burning money. So do that work right from the contract signing to continue analyzing and narrowing, hashing out all the details. So from day one, they're complaining because they've got too many people in the house, right? You do that within reason. I don't want to go and do a full rehab seminar, but I mean, you really want to maximize that. So the analysis continues all the way up until even do a final check. You do a final walkthrough to make sure that a house is still in the same condition as when you contracted it. You're going to do the same thing with the numbers. Before you go to the closing table, you're reviewing the HUD-1 to make sure everything all pans out. Get those real numbers in. Start plugging them right into your calculation. Do that last check before, okay, here we go. Because I'd rather give away $1,000, $3,000 of an earnest money deposit than end up with a $10,000 hit or a $25,000 hit if it's around the edge of my box, right? If it's right in the middle, I got a little bit, okay, so I'm not gonna make 50 on this one, I'll make 45. Oh, crap. I mean, don't get stuck on being too greedy is another point there. So relationships, being one of the basics. I'll tell you about one of my mistakes and one of the big things that really, really hurt. I mean, it's just like, man, why can you be so stupid? Dumb and Dumber. You get relationships, and we had built a very strong relationship with our contractor. But we did it before we used them as a contractor. So then we're like, okay, well, we're such good friends, right? Let's just go through this. All right, here's my budget. I've got a budget for rehab on this house for $96K. It's in a nicer neighborhood in Lancaster. It was all gutted out. They've added 600 square foot addition on the back, and never finished it because they went bankrupt, and it was foreclosed. It was vacant for 9 years. It was just framing. I mean, some of the framing on the second floor for the addition and everything, it They're just wobbly. They weren't even tied into the joist yet. It was, needed a bunch. So I had gone through and I did my estimate. I'm like, okay, yeah, we're about 95,000. And I hadn't really worked with them before. And we had such a good relationship. And they said, yeah, well, it's time and material, so we'll just go ahead and, I said, well, your budget's 96. Didn't anchor that, right? Time and material and your budget's 96. The two, they don't even connect, right? So we get going. I mean, man, yeah, we're going to crank this out. We're going to make this the nicest house. And we're bringing it up to the standards of what that neighborhood should be. Well, the standards of that neighborhood should be is people have lived there for 40 freaking years and since they built the place back in the 70s. Okay. Yeah, well, we're going to do it to this level because this matches into Manheim Township. We're good to go. So we start going, and it's like, okay, well, we need this, and it's going to be, we're not going to hit, we're going to need a little bit more. All right, so what's a little bit more? Well, we're at 105. Okay, let's go, because it's going to sell for 365. We bought it for 174. All right, it's getting a little bit tight, but we'll be all right. We landed at 145. It sold for 330. So that 365 and the 105 just went, it went that way. I don't like paying people to buy my houses. And let's just say that relationship was a little bit strained and it doesn't exist anymore. Relationships are so key, and how you manage them are even more. And there's so many of them that you deal with in real estate. So if the big takeaway is, if you're not good at building relationships, get better. Because it's really, really important when it comes to making any of those mistakes. Because good relationships can solve almost every single one of them. It comes with advisors, it comes with, relationships with other experienced investors, it comes with relationships in and amongst your local investing community. Having somebody to call and ask those questions or run something by, or exactly what somebody's looking for. Yeah, this doesn't fit in my box, but I know it fits in Joe's box. Let me call Joe. Hey, Joe, you want this? Yeah, I just need a little bit off of it. Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, yep, it fits in the box. Okay, good. Thanks, man. And you get Christmas cookies this time of year from those type of people because you have good relationships. So it solves a lot of those mistakes. That's mainly what I got. I don't know. We can rap for a while.
You guys give them a round of applause.
Tune in next time to the Central Pennsylvania Real Estate Investors Meetup podcast, keeping you up to date with what is happening in the York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania real estate markets.